Hello, it's Salimik. In today's video, I'm gonna show you how to flush brake fluid on any car without needing anyone to push the brake pedal for you. I did a video before where I showed when to open bleeding valve, and someone else has to press the brake pedal for you and push the old fluid out. And it has some bad points. Some cars will give you warning light pushing the brake pedal with the engine off, and you have to close the valve before the other person releases the brake pedal. Otherwise, it will suck the air into the system. But in today's video, you won't have any problem like this. So for 2019 Toyota Camry, I will be using Pristone synthetic .4 brake fluid. You can use .3 and .4, but I will be using .4. We're gonna need 2 bottles like this, each one 12 ounces, 350 milliliter, and it will last 50,000 miles. Before changing brake fluid, I will be using brake fluid tester. It will measure moisture percentage in the brake fluid. Because brake fluid hygroscopic, it likes to absorb water. So higher moisture content means we have to flush the brake fluid. Speaking of flushing, I will be using this brake fluid pump for flushing each wheel without needing anyone to press the brake pedal. And the assembly is very easy. Short hose first and then the container. Long hose and then the valve that matches your car's bleeding valve. And you have many valve sizes to choose from. I chose the smallest one. It also comes with extra hoses and Y connectors if your car has dual brake piston and 2 bleeding valves. This kit for the price has a decent suction, and we will see how long it will take to bleed one brake caliper. We also gonna need a spray bottle like this in case of spilling any brake fluid. And the last thing, one 8mm wrench for opening brake valves for bleeding. Alright, here is the brake reservoir. This strut brace in our way, so I'm gonna have to remove this bolt and loosen the other one so I can lift it and work on that reservoir easily. Alright, before opening the reservoir cap, I recommend you to put few sharp towels around the reservoir in case of spilling any brake fluid. Because brake fluid corrosive, if it's touched the paint, it will damage it if you don't wash it right away. So it's better to put few towels around it in case of spilling any drop. Alright, now we know what we need. Let's take the brake fluid cap and test the fluid. And I like to take the filter strainer out. It's easier for suctioning old fluid and adding new fluid later. Alright, let's turn the tester on and put it in the fluid. Let's see how much moisture we got. According to the tester, we have humidity more than 4%. If we leave it like this, it will damage all the seals in the brake components. Okay, first thing we need to do, suction the old fluid from the reservoir. So for that, I will change the head from this to needle valve shape. So the first thing we need to do before flushing, suction the old fluid from the reservoir so we can fill it with new one. I'm using the same kit. In this case, no need to use turkey baster or anything else. Because of the size of the bleeding container, I had to drain the container and continue suctioning all the fluid from the reservoir. So in this case, take your time and make sure the reservoir is completely empty. It took me 2 times to drain the container and empty the whole reservoir. So as I emptied the reservoir, I saw these small plastic pieces in the reservoir, even though there was a filter on it. So I'm not quite sure how it got in the reservoir. Hope it's not being suctioned in the system. So I took my time and took each one out with a small screwdriver. So imagine if you never do a flush and you have something like this in the reservoir. It will be suctioned in the system and it will damage the whole brake system. Let's uncap the new brake fluid. Put the filter back first and fill up the reservoir. It will take about half of the bottle. After filling up, immediately put the caps back on because we don't want the new fluid absorb moisture. So after pouring the old fluid, I still see some small particles resting at the bottom of the container. So I'm glad we are doing this brake flush. Now I'm gonna put the container back and change the valve from this to this so we can bleed from the calipers. Here's how the flushing procedure will be. We're gonna start from furthest point to closest point. Rear right wheel, rear left. Front right, and then front left is the closest point to the master cylinder. So for bleeding brake fluid from each caliper, we're gonna need 8mm wrench to open the valves, bleeding gun, and water spray in case of dripping any brake fluid. Now we're gonna start from rear right wheel, removing rubber boots, putting 8mm wrench on the valve. Now I'm gonna open the valve. Bleeding valve is on. It will suction new fluid from the reservoir to the brake calipers. And you will see when the new fluid comes out. And that is it, the flushing procedure done for this corner. After the flushing is done and new fluid came out, I will close the valve. And the last thing, don't forget to put the rubber boots on and we are done here. After bleeding each corner, you need to drain the container. Because I flush it till I fill the whole container. And I wanted to make sure to have a good flush. The important thing is to fill the brake reservoir with the new fluid again after bleeding each wheel, otherwise it will suction air into the system. Alright, moving to the rear left wheel and doing the same procedure. Alright, I'm gonna speed up the process, but for each wheel you're gonna need 5 minutes for bleeding each caliper. In case of spilling any drop of brake fluid, just spray some water and that is it. We're gonna repeat the same procedure again, draining the old fluid, filling new fluid to the master cylinder. This time we're gonna flush front right wheel, and for that we're gonna start the engine and steer the wheel. I could jack up the car and remove the wheels, but I wanted to show how to flush brake fluid at home without having that much tools. As you guys saw it, I just used the kit and 8mm wrench. For each wheel bleeding will be the same procedure. And here is the last one, which is front left wheel. It is the closest one to the master cylinder. Now I'm gonna fill the reservoir for the last time, and also I will use the tester again to test the new fluid. It reads 0% of humidity, comparing to how it was before. Now we are done here. Let's close the cap and take the shaft towels. So I quickly put the front tower strut bar and bolted again. And that is how to flush old brake fluid with using these tools. And if I show you the difference between the new fluid and the old fluid, and here's the difference. This kit made bleeding job so much easier. For the price it has a decent suction. I wish it has a bigger container, but that's pump's capacity limit. Tool wise I only used this 8mm wrench, as you guys saw the procedure. Next item I would recommend you to get is this brake fluid tester. You never know if the brake reservoir cap was loose and absorbed moisture. And for brake fluid quantity, for Camry you will need two 12-ounce bottles, which I almost used all and only that much left to be accurate. I also bought this brake fluid bleeder kit, but it needs compressed air, which won't be useful for many of you. This bleeding kit is good for the price if you are willing to work on your car. I will make sure to put some links in the video description box below where you find what I used in today's video. And here is how to flush brake fluid at home in an easy way. So that's it for this video. Hope the video was helpful and learned something new. If it was, like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.